Subtle skills, big results.
Welcome to the Ninja Selling Podcast.
Welcome back to the Ninja Selling Podcast. Matt and Garrett are back with you again. He's Matt. I'm Garrett. We have a good one for you today because we're going to talk about money, and people seem to like it when we talk about money. So we're going to stick with that today. We'll stay away from cars, stick with money.
I like talking about money.
As you're listening to this, as you're hearing what Matt and I are going to share with you today, and you're wondering, okay, what is the global bigger picture of where all this comes from? And it's ninja selling. It's where this all comes from, at least a lot of the overall thinking and mentality of what we work around. If you want to learn more about it, go check out Larry Kendall's book, Ninja Selling. If you want to learn more about classes and offerings that we have, go to ninjaselling.com. If you want to surround yourself with like-minded people, you can go to the Facebook page and community, which is the Ninja Selling Podcast community. And I don't talk about it very often, but we know we have a lot of readers that listen to us. And if any of you want to go check out people and books that we recommend a lot of times, and we recommend in our community, we have the Ninja Coaching Book Study. You can go check that out. Tona and Gretchen run that, and they are in there, and they review books on a monthly basis. They've got a huge amount of books that they've gone through. And if you want more information that, you can reach out to Ninja Coaching, and you can also find it through there too. So read away, people. Matt, good morning, sir.
Sweet. Good morning. Yeah. Awesome what Gretchen and Tona do there, by the way, with the book study.
They have some of the best discussions and the level that they go through on those books. And again, they're all books that we recommend. They're all books that are like-minded to what we practice with Ninja. I think it just gives you an opportunity that if you're not a reader, and I know not all of us are, I go through waves of being a reader. And as my kids make fun of me, you don't read, Garrett. You actually listen to books. That's not called reading.
Your kids call you Garrett?
So with those out there, though, if you're not a reader, I didn't hear what you said.
You said your kids call you Garrett?
Dad.
Instead of dad?
Be nice, man. It's early.
Hey, Garrett. You don't... It is early.
But when it goes down to books, if you're not a reader, if you're not somebody that sits down and takes the time to take in information like that, it's a great way to kind of get a sense of what a book is, and maybe the ones that you really want to spend time with and the ones that you want to listen to or ones you want to read. So, no, my kids don't call me Garrett. They call me Dad.
And it's totally free.
And it's free,
so
yeah.
It's not like you have to join coaching or anything to be a part of the coaching book study. Totally free. Yeah, I think you just search for, you connect with us with coaching, or just, they have a Facebook group, right? Ninja Coaching Book Study.
Yeah, I think it's, if I remember correctly, you can go into the Facebook, just Ninja Coaching Book Study. And
there it is.
You'll find it. It's the only one out there that okay, Matt, money. Let's jump into money.
Let's talk about money.
So
money.
This came up because obviously we're going through business planning. Most of you who are listening to this right now are wrapping up business planning. You should be done with business planning by now, really. But one of the things we started kind of looking at is I'm watching people's years and where they're at right now. Some of our people are realizing they did way better than they thought they were doing. Some people knew they were doing great. Some people are way off. They're sitting back and looking at their numbers and realizing that this year, 2023, kind of kicked them a little bit. So this is a great time to sit back and say, okay, where am I spending my money? Is my money working for me? And where are the wise places to be putting my money? Because we watch as realtors, Matt, people sometimes just throw cash at things. They say their business is down, but then they start dumping money into places because so-and-so's doing that and so-and-so's doing this and they're being successful. I'm going to throw money over there. And this is a time to be wise, to really look at where your money's going, how it's working for you, and what's producing you the real results. So Matt, I want to kick this around today. I think you threw this topic on, and then I added on to it a little bit as we were kind of talking about it. So let's jump in, man.
Yeah, we've kind of ramped it up a little bit to include a broader conversation, because we were kind of talking about like, hey, when business is down, because we were seeing a lot towards end of third quarter, people pulling money out of things and being like, oh, I don't want to spend money on this, don't want to spend money on this, business isn't going so great. And the question was, and somebody had asked the question, where do I put my money when my business is down? Because the other side of this is realtors will throw money at certain things, but they'll penny pinch other things, right? Like, yeah, I'm just going to throw out professional photography on the listing side as an example.
Well, we got cameras in our pocket. Why would we spend money there if we don't have to?
Now, I know all you ninjas out there, you're maybe not the agents that are doing that, but you've seen the MLS. I've seen the MLS listings. I've seen the ones that are multi-million-dollar properties that have cell phone photos done. And I was like, what is going on? Well, I don't want to spend, the $500 to bring in a professional photographer, even though I could be collecting a $30,000 check on this one. It's like, come on. Okay. Anyway, but what we do want to highlight, so when in the business plan, Garrett, we have a part where we actually ask people.
Matt, use postcards as an example, by the way. I love it when people go, I got to save money, so I'm cutting my entire postcard campaign, my auto flow. I'm going to cut that out because I need to save some money.
And that is where, we I've seen that happen. A lot of people left our business like, hey, yeah, I got to save money, so I'm going to cut back on postcards. And I get it. Those look like a big expense because it costs money to print and mail things, right? And they're like, I'm going to go with an email campaign instead. And I love emails, don't get me wrong. But when you look at something like that too, and you're like, wait, we're talking about guaranteed delivery to your people where they will see what you want them to see every time you send it. So we're going to talk about all this stuff, Garrett. And there's a part on the business plan where we actually have people list out all of their expenses.
Yeah.
And what's fascinating is some people are like, I'm not really sure what the expenses are. And so if you haven't done this, time to sharpen your pencil, open your credit card account and go look at, hey, what are all the things that I spend money on over the course of the year in my business? That's where we got to start.
Business is what we're looking at here. There's lots of places we spend money. But I mean, I've had people that do this and they start researching and thinking about like how much they spend on childcare. And you start looking at this and saying, well, what is the break-even point here? We're paying all this money on childcare and we're making X amount of money through the business. And at the end of the day, it's like, are we just swimming round in circles here and never really getting anywhere? Like, what is the bigger picture to this? We either need to make the business work and get this thing growing to a bigger level so this is heading in the right direction. Or maybe we should just stop doing this and maybe stop with the childcare and just like kind of come together. Like
childcare is expensive.
I've heard some numbers out there and there's moments that I'm like, one, I'm really happy I don't live in a big city raising kids because it can get extremely expensive. Yeah, we'll stop there. Okay. So with expenses, one of the things we have people do again is you write down every expense you have towards your business. And then Matt, what we end up having them do then is they have to answer two questions. One is it worth it? And this is an interesting question that I always kind of watch people stumble around because the is it worth it can get pretty messed up pretty fast. There's the worth it in results, and then there's worth it, I think, in image almost. It's like there's two sides to this thing. It's like, but it helps because it makes me look a certain way.
Social media manager is usually one that's usually on there. It's like, well, I mean, I didn't get any business from social media. Look at my Instagram. It is phenomenal. But I get that too. I get the thought process.
I've also seen it in advertising in certain places. Oh, I have to have it in that magazine. Why? Because all the other realtors are marketing there. Great. Does anybody sell a house because of that magazine? Well, I don't know. But you're somebody if you're in that magazine. Oh, great. Okay, I see what we're trying to accomplish here. So I think this is your moment. You got to ask, is it worth it? And there's a lot of stuff we just do. And we just do it and we pay it and we sign up for it again and we sign up for it again. And we never take the time to really step back and ask ourselves, is it worth it? And the other question is, or should we do it again? I'm always amazed, Matt. Every year, there's people that will say, was it worth it? And they'll write no. And then when it says do it again, they're like, oh, yeah, doing that one again. I'm like, what did I miss?
Diving all in. Absolutely. And maybe there is a reason, depending on how you quantify, is it worth it? What I like to see, because I think when it gets into certain tools, like we were saying, the magazine or the billboard or the social media manager or the CRM that we're not really using, that we're going to use this year.
Was that sarcastic?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a few questions, I guess.
I picked up your sarcasm there. I just want to make sure.
Like the first is this tied to some other element in my business, right? Because using postcards as an example, some people say, well, I'm not getting any direct business from mailing things to my sphere. And I say, okay, great. But is that connected to how you are then communicating with your sphere so that they know, like, and trust you and are in flow with you. So when they call you and refer you somebody, they may not say it's from the postcard, but it's because of your overall relationship. So the first thing is, are these things tied together? Social media is a good one for that too. Because like, hey, if we're on social media, but we're also active and connecting with other people on that platform and going back and forth in the comments, maybe there isn't direct business that comes from there, but it's helping your brand presence. Being in the magazine for the local whatever, right? Pick your poison there. And you're not getting direct business, but you are super active in the community. You make sure you go to all the events, that you're present at the places where the people who read that magazine are. Okay, that's now tied to some other activity that you're doing where that may be worth it. We can't quantify the ROI necessarily, but it's worth it. But now if it's not connected, like, yeah, I got a billboard over on this side of town and I never ever go there. It's like, well, why do you have a billboard over there? That doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's a way that I think we can better analyze the is it worth it question.
Well, and I think, you brought up CRM, and I mean, we've seen people spend crazy amounts of money on CRMs over the years, and there's sometimes you have to check it, was it worth it? Because you have to put no, because you didn't use any bit of what that CRM had to offer. You were using maybe one little teeny part of what it was. Maybe you're just using it as a place to house all your people, warehouse all your names. But then when you start to look at it and say, well, will I use it again? Yes, I'll put a yes down next to that one. And then the notes, because there is a note section that we give our clients that are doing their business plan. You might say, part of this, as I plan out the rest of this year, is I'm going to use my CRM in 2024. I'm going to make sure that I am analyzing and taking classes through that company that offers that CRM to make sure I'm using it at the best and highest level I possibly can. Maybe I'm going to train somebody underneath me to figure out how to use that CRM at the highest level. Like, this is your opportunity to be like, I got money going out. I'm not necessarily using it at the highest level. I either need to ditch it or I got to figure it out. And if you choose to figure it out, like, this is your time to do that. If you do like this a couple of years and you're like, 2028's the year I'm going to figure out my CRM finally, and you look back at your year before and the year before that, you might just want to go with a different CRM. Just be like, okay, we're calling time of death now. Let's find a different direction we can go.
It's like, we've tried, and it is, clearly we've been here. This should bring up another question. Clearly you're using something else that's working for you. So
yeah. Well, it doesn't mean you're being successful, Matt. I mean,
right. Yeah. I mean, I guess that's the other question too. And I know we're kind of bouncing all over a bit here, but before we get into specifics, because I think we can lend some kind of things that we've seen that are beneficial things to expend money on, invest in your business. But we also often get the question, Garrett, like, well, what percentage, like, what should be my profit margin within my business, right? How much money should I be spending? And we'll share a percentage, but I also want to note that, like, as you perform better in this business, your profit margin probably will grow, because there are certain fixed costs that you have, like your association dues and things like that, that obviously take up a smaller percentage of your revenue as you earn more money. Same thing, even like listing expenses might be kind of like a fixed, kind of, it goes along with what your listings are. So anyway, there are those fixed costs.
Even marketing expenses are interesting as you're building a ninja business too, because the same dollar goes farther with the relationships that you've built as you can. I usually find most people, Matt, as the better and better they build their relationship built business, usually they'll be like, man, every year I haven't changed a darn thing, but my actual results are getting better and better and better every year from the same people. Certain people are sending me more referrals. I'm getting better referrals from certain people. And it's like, you're not spending any more money. You're not doing anything different. The longevity of your relationship is returning at a higher rate, which there's a lot here. So I appreciate you saying, like, what is this amount, this magical amount of what your expenses should be? I find when people have been doing this for a long time, they're usually going, I have a big problem. I've made a lot of money and I don't have enough write-offs to offset it.
Yeah. And that probably, we need to look at what the personal expenditures are then there and be like, should we be setting aside some money for those taxes? Yeah. If that becomes a surprise, which we could talk about too.
Yeah.
But Garrett, I think a good rule of thumb, let's just call it a rule of thumb, kind of is to keep your expenses at somewhere around that 30%, which I calculate that off of what I would call your net commission income. So what your 1099 says, not off of your gross commission, because everybody has a different split with their office. And that's obviously going to impact what your expenses are, because if you have a better split, so to speak, maybe your company offers less services. If they're taking a little bit more than company A, then maybe they're offering you more services. So your expenses are going to be less on the back end. So I would look at 30% of which gives you, I mean, if you think about your top line revenue for you as a person is your net commission income, not necessarily your gross. And then if you're only expending then 30%, your net profit margin is 70%, which is pretty darn good, right?
Yeah, and that 30%. I mean, again, and don't get too locked onto it. And there's a place there that you can sit there and be like, oh, I should be spending more on my business, and that's not necessarily the case either.
And again, this is kind of all dependent on where you're at, what your income levels are, and all that kind of stuff, because that also doesn't mean that if you're earning a whole lot more, it's like, gosh, I should be spending more. And some people will spend more than others. And I'm talking about, I mean, when you do your taxes, some people, bring in other things and everything that goes into that. We start adding up mileage and all these other components.
I'll say this, Matt, like when somebody brings their numbers to me, when they want to share those numbers, I don't make it mandatory when I'm coaching somebody that I need to see all that P&L and whatnot. But when somebody wants to share with me, usually it's because there's a concern around it. They're trying to figure out, okay, I think I got money, I'm bleeding money here. I need to be doing something better. If it's over that 30% mark, that's where my red flag goes up and say, let's really dive in to figure out where these dollars are going and what's working and what's not. Which then brings us back to the initial question that you started this podcast episode with, which was, when my business is down, where is the best place to put money? Where should we be spending our dollars on to have the biggest and best impact? And I'm going to throw this right back to you real quick. What do you see in that situation where we have somebody that's going, oh my gosh, what do? I need to make something happen here quickly. My business isn't going the direction what's the kind of the number one first place you look at?
So the first place I look at is, what does our auto flow look like?
You mean one of the first ones that people cut out?
Yeah.
Just checking.
And the reason why I look at this is because as business owners in general, we sometimes obsess so much about like, oh, I got to make sure I have the right systems and all these things in place and paying for those things. And I'm not saying that those things aren't helpful. They certainly are. However, you can make this business work with a spreadsheet, right? To manage your contacts, to track your actions and things like that. If you really want to make a really good effort at it, you can make it work off of that. But what is hard to scale is your marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like you as an individual, you want to focus on your live flow. So maybe your cell phone is probably the first place I would spend money on. Make sure you have a phone that works, you have a great cell phone plan, and you have a device that allows you to be connected with your people. Maybe that's the first place. Right? Then the next place would be your marketing, your auto flow. How are you showing up for the people in your sphere first, making sure that they know that you are a realtor for one, that you're good at it, and that you're doing business, right? That's where I would focus first and foremost.
I'm happy you brought up kind of the what is the message that's going around about this marketing you're putting out too, because sometimes people will just put stuff out, and stuff can sometimes not necessarily represent that you're a professional in the industry that you're in.
That's true.
I would also say if your business is off and you're looking at how in the world can I spend money the best, I would actually lean a little bit heavy into the science type of marketing. The more so you can help people understand the value that you bring to the table, the expertise that you bring, the knowledge that you've learned over the years of doing this business, or what you can glean from the people that are around you that are experts that you've surrounded yourself with as real estate agents. Whatever you can bring that makes that client go, when we need to sell, we should give Matt a call. I know we're not, but like that little voice in the back of their head that goes, that's somebody we need to pay attention to if we're going to be needing to do anything with real estate. We just want to see if we can open up that doorway. And I know we've all seen it. Some of you have done it out there, which is the mailing that just says, when you're thinking about buying or selling, use me. I just got one in the mail that said, I just finished selling a house down the street from you, and now I have room to help you out. If you're needing to buy or
Now
sell,
I have room to help you. Oh gosh.
it's just like, I get it. I mean, that there's really no value in that to me. That doesn't necessarily tell me that you're an expert in the industry. That doesn't show me.
Hey, I'm a plumber and I just got finished helping your neighbor's toilet out. So now I have space to make sure that I can cover your plumbing needs as well.
My tools are just sitting there. I can rotor anything you got, any pipe you got. You just let me know.
Oh, man.
We'll open up those side drains. We'll clean those out.
But again, I also get it. I get it. I get why people do it.
It's an approach. I would much rather, if we look at this industry that we're in right now, we look at kind of the wave of what the marketplace is doing. We have a lot of homeowners out here, right? Or people that want to be homeowners that are really kind of trying to figure out how to navigate this world right now. They see the prices are really high, affordability somewhat difficult in a lot of areas. We got interest rates that are making people look at house payments they never thought they would ever be making to be a homeowner. There are all these elements that start to come into all of this, plus just day-to-day living expenses are up, besides the cost of a house. And it really makes them stop and kind of freeze to try to figure out, like, is it worth it? Like, is it worth it to be a homeowner? What are the real factors around this? What do we really gain out of it? Is it worth it to stay here? Is it worth it to move up? Is it worth it to take a higher payment? Are there other ways we can do it? And I think there's a lot of homeowners out there that if they see somebody as the person with value, the one that can help them understand how to get from point A to point B, the likelihood of them picking up the phone and saying, hey, can you help us with this, goes way up.
Huge.
I look for anybody if I were to come across somebody right now that could be a resource for me for the stock market, I'm fascinated by it. I don't know enough to do it. There's no way I'm just calling somebody who's just out there being like, hey, can you help me? I want to invest in some stocks.
What about all those? You don't get the DMs from the Forex traders and
I probably will now.
The crypto people like, hey, I traded with John over here and he made me $10,000 in my first 2 weeks.
I haven't made that list yet. I'm not on that list. But I, if I had somebody that routinely sent me enough value, like I would be going, okay, I'm going to call Luke when I have that opportunity because I'm curious about it. He's the one I know with the deepest knowledge and smarts around this. So,
and I'm glad you said, Garrett, value and science as well. And a lot of people think, oh, I just need to send them the stats. And, don't think that science related to real estate is just the stats, because actually it's funny, Matthew Ferrara actually made a very interesting post. He said, oh, this headline came out where like home sales are down X% compared to the same week last year. And he's like, and that means absolutely nothing to anyone. And he was so right, because who cares about the data? He said, I've never seen a home buyer or seller go, well, the data says it's a great time for us to buy or sell. So let's go to it. It's like, no, it's the life changes. It's navigating, current markets and things. So if you can build that value into your content, and this is where I tell everybody, like on an email side too, which email is an outrageously low cost way of doing auto flow, but most of it is just this templated fluff. And it's not your personal analysis, your personal value, where you are sharing your voice with somebody and showcasing how you can help them navigate a situation or just providing them value that helps them live in their home better and things like that. Like, what an easy place to begin, even just right there of just, hey, here's my opinion. Here's my expertise. Here's how I'm seeing things. That's huge value.
You want to have some fun because believe me, we've all seen when's the best time to buy and when's the best time to sell. Right now. Right now is. You would do better with a postcard when you're really being serious to your people, is that it's not always the best time to buy and to sell. But when you need to buy and sell, I can help you navigate through any marketplace that's in front of you.
Yeah.
Like, just be honest, put the information out there. But again, it's not just stats. I think there is giving the reinforcement to people about like, what are all these different marketplaces and what do these mean right now? And, you start looking at creative ways of buying. And, there's some areas that I'm hearing talking about right now, coming up with ways of potentially helping you carry your current interest rate into a new home loan and what that looks like and what they're talking about around that. As these things start to come about and you learn more about it, go get educated. Go find ways that you can share that information. Say, if you happen to be thinking about making a change in your house, here are some creative ideas and ways that you should try researching, and I can help you with it.
Yeah.
These are things we want to start stepping towards. Remodel projects, Matt. There's a lot of people deciding out there right now, do I stick in my house and remodel it, or do we sell this thing and move along? I think there's a lot of people that when they start to realize the cost of remodel, what that's all going to look like and how it's going to turn your household upside down, there's a good chance they might choose to do it. There's a very good chance they might say, you know what? It's worth it. We're going to take a home loan out to be able to do the remodel. We're going to have to do let's go figure out what the next house looks like.
Just had that happen with a client. He said he was helping somebody go through, great, let's get the quotes and everything. The remodel came out to $1.8 million was the lowest bid for the one. He's like, gosh, we could tear your house down and rebuild it. For that.
Yeah, it was only a $200,000 house. I'm making that up.
Price. I was like, those are those bids of I don't want to do this, but if you pay me this much, then yeah, I'll do it. I was like, gosh, well, I know we didn't intend to go down a whole what should your marketing look like, but
if you're going to spend the money,
if you're going to spend the money, and if you are also having a down year and you're like, where can I invest? Where can I pull money into that's going to help me sustain my business? And it has to be in the marketing and advertising, because you as an individual, we talk about live flow, and if you're doing the Ninja 9, that's where you got to invest your time, hands down. And if you're not investing your time there, your marketing is not going to make it up for you. But every business has marketing and advertising budgets for a reason, because that's how their name gets out there. That's how their value proposition gets out there at scale. So that's definitely the first place. But there's more.
And if you look at it, at the end of the day, Matt, we watched a lot of people build really successful real estate businesses using the Ninja principles and Ninja systems. And really, there's a triangle that makes this all work. There's you and a database of people that know you and you know them. You've then got...
I wish I could write this up here on okay, got you up here. Got it.
So we got us and our people. We got to have us and our people. If we don't have us and our people, then we have an issue. Then we've got this other part down here, which is the lower part of the triangle, which is we need to have something going out that helps them understand what our service and our value is that we offer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part of this triangle is we have to have a frequency of interaction with these people. And that comes into us being in flow with them through picking up the phone and being in touch with them, because we've got the people to talk to. And we've also got the frequency interaction of this marketing that's going out and getting in their hands. If you have these three things, it's really hard not to be successful. You're going to have business. You're going to make this business work. Usually, if you're looking at your business and going, why is this not working? One of these three areas is broken.
Yeah.
It's what I've always found.
Oh, I agree.
It's either we don't have a database and we're going, why am I not getting any referral business? Well, you have nobody. And I don't mean that to be mean, but that's really what, you have nobody that you've built this database around, or you have no marketing, or you've got great marketing, you got a database, but we're not in flow with these people. Our frequency of interaction isn't happening with them.
We see that with the people who are like, oh, I have the best annual newsletter ever. And it's awesome. I'm glad that it's outrageously high value, but it's only going out once a year.
One time.
So
when we talk about where do you spend your money, I think I would encourage everybody to understand and to really think about that triangle and sit back and say, and at least understand, this doesn't have to be expensive. We're not talking about where do I throw money and spend money? This is
no.
This is really inexpensive to run when you figure out the plan. But if you're going to spend money, marketing's probably the number one place.
And a hard number. Marketing overall, when you look at all the things that you can do to have 3 touches a month, auto flow and all this stuff, can easily be, if you're focused on your database and not just hey, I'm going to farm this neighborhood of thousands of people. We're talking about overall over the course of the year, way less than even $10,000 to do all this stuff.
Yeah. So, dude, you got your hand up.
I want to take your triangle and we're going to take this and go put it flat, and we're going to put a point in the center and draw that up, right? Because this is another part.
You're going 3-dimensional on us, aren't you?
Going 3D, baby.
Yeah. I'm all in, Matt. I want to know where you're going.
Because if you have this base set up, you're going to have business. Now it's okay, where do I invest in the doing of the business? Which overall, as a realtor, it doesn't cost us a whole lot of money to operate the business at a acceptable level. For people to be happy, okay, we're going to have some gas money, right? We're going to maybe wash our car and keep it clean, and there's going to be a budget around that. Maintenance, we want probably some making sure that our clothes look nice enough. We're going to spend some money on listings, right? There's going to be some marketing expenses, professional photography, floor plans, things like that. If we're going up to higher levels, maybe we're paying for some staging and things like that. But overall, it's not super expensive, particularly if we're closing these deals, to run that. And so then I look at, okay, how do we invest to enhance that customer experience so that we're also pulling business from our active people? Because these people they're part of the triangle, right? They're getting the auto flow. We have a high frequency of interaction, particularly if we're doing deals with them. And yeah, they're in our database. So all that stuff's working. And now they get to experience the business side and the exceptionality of that business. They're going to get the attention, which is leaning into that frequency of interaction. So picture that coming third dimension. They're going to get maybe even a higher level of hospitality, right? We've talked about Unreasonable Hospitality, a great book, and maybe we're going to level up kind of that experience. We're going to make sure that the closing is something that's memorable for them versus stressful.
Like a red carpet. I've seen the red carpet get rolled out in front of people's houses with the little thing. You got
red carpet, dedicated parking spot at the attorney or title company's office, a really nice key box presentation, like where the keys are there, like all the closings that I've done. Now, granted, mostly builders, show up like, here's your packet. I'm like, cool. We're homeowners now. Now I was my own realtor, so maybe that's a little bit different on those things. But
you got to treat yourself better, Matt. That's really what it comes down to.
But we see, for a lot of people, particularly sellers, sometimes, when I was selling real estate in New Jersey, sellers never even went to closing, right? So there was no experience for them. How do we make that experience? The buyers would show up and they got, here's this stack of paper that you now need to sign, and then you can call yourself a homeowner. And they're like, my hand is tired. What did I even sign? All this stuff.
You just said something very lightly there, which was, we have entire ways that we celebrate the buyer.
But the seller. Yeah.
I very rarely hear about people that have a plan and a celebration built into the seller side of the transaction. It's more so of a, hey guys, we got it closed. We're done. Congratulations. Very rarely. I've seen move out parties. I've seen things where it's like, hey, as they're exiting their house, make it easy for them to move out and things like that. But if I think back to every property I ever sold, there's a bittersweet side to it. There's a lot of energy and emotion and what that home has meant, which would be interesting to have celebrated. The other part is, and again, every home I've ever sold is different. They bring different energy with them.
For sure.
The other part is that they're starting a journey on a whole nother life. There's a whole piece we got to go into around this, Matt, because I think that it's not embraced enough. We celebrate the buyers, and I think we celebrate the buyers because there's future business in there. The sellers are moving away. Or we're going to help them now with their next transaction.
It's easier to celebrate the buyers. I get it. We could also argue, well, the sellers are going to get all this fancy attention up front with marketing and staging and all of this cool stuff. Whereas,
yeah, but it's how you end the relationship. It's that last moment.
It is. So this is the pulling that triangle up into a 3-dimensional pyramid, right? But you have to have that foundation first, right? And then you can start investing in these other areas that enhance what people go through. Then after that, it's kind of like, all right, now it's how well is our business doing and what are the cool, fun things that we decide we want to invest in. But if that's your core, plus obviously your administrative stuff. There's just things that we can't get around, right? Association dues, as an example.
But I like your pyramid. If we make a pyramid, I'm sorry, guys. My brain is spinning right now. I've got visuals flying around in my head. My ADD's going off the charts.
We could have some fun with what are the different faces of the pyramid too, in turn, because if you have the line between,
I think there's the pyramid of running the business. You got this foundation. There's the pyramid of what does it take to run the business, and that's the blah. Those are expenses that are reoccurring, office fees, dues, things like that. Got it. Then there's the pyramid of, okay, we got our foundation built off this thing. Now what is it that's going to make this business get three-dimensional, not just be this flat blah business, but like all of a sudden make it come to life. What are all the fun things we're doing? What are the events? What are the whether it's a pie giveaway that we do, or whether it's a Christmas party that we have going on, or the simple thing of the key giveaway that we were talking about, like when you are presenting the key with white gloves on and a satin pillow. Like, what are the small expenses that make you all of a sudden go, oh, this is different? Like, now this thing has gained dimension. There's more work that has to be done with this, Matt.
Oh, well, we could do a whole brainstorming episode.
You're brilliant, man.
But I want to also just reiterate that, like, where the expenses matter in terms of the things we don't want to cut out. I mean, unless like you're like, hey, I'm making no business. Okay, well, then you're going to have to do, instead of spending the money to have somebody else do it for you or a service, then you're going to be putting in the time to do things. But when it comes to sending things to your people, just remember the mailbox is a 100% open rate. And we can't get around the cost of postage, which just increased again, not the stamps, but in another venue, which is interesting. The cost of postage actually decreased for like packages and stuff. That's a whole different thing. Anyway, then once you have that foundation of, hey, we got the auto flow, we have our live flow, we have our frequency of interaction, now we can add the fun stuff. And the cool thing about doing things around the transaction and the business is you can literally see the margins right there because, okay, we have commission check coming in. Now, I'm not saying what you should do is say like, ooh, well, I'm going to sell a 500,000 house versus a 200 versus a million, and they're all going to get a percentage of what my commission is as goes towards their closing gift. Don't do that. It's not like you're more special because you bought a more expensive home. Focus on creating the experience for people. It's not about how much money you spend, it's how you spend the money.
Well, and I think this is how you go back to creating fabled service. And I think a lot of people don't look at it as like, how can I create an experience that's going to make them want to go and yell from the rooftops about what it was like working with my process that I have. And I think that's the opportunity that sits in your hands when you talk about going three-dimensional with this. This is the opportunity to say, okay, let's say the taller this pyramid gets, the more fabled service, the more different it is from all the others out there that makes them go, working with Matt Benelli's, it's not like working with any realtor I've ever worked with before. Like, that dude's got it going on. And that's what you want to start to create. That's where the referral business goes to the roof for people, is when you can see it from that level.
Hands down. So, Garrett, we talked about Profit First, I think about a year or two ago as a book, I think, in terms of just understanding your cash flow, because I would hate to end an episode about money without just mentioning like getting your cash flow under control for your business is also very important. Profit First is a great book to read to help you understand like, how should I allocate my money? Because I want you guys to be able to set money aside for taxes and things like that. And I get that this business is a individual business. Mostly a lot of you guys may not even have an LLC or an S Corp set up. It's just basically a straight 1099 Schedule C on your taxes. But if you take the business approach, put yourself on salary, as we say in the installation, and make sure that you're monitoring your cash flow, it's going to be so much easier for you to understand your expenses. And that'll also help you understand which expenses need to be cut when the revenue is not coming in. Because I love the answer of like, well, I'm going to just push the accelerator, I'm going to earn more money. Awesome, fantastic. But sometimes things do need to get cut. And if you know what your cash flow is and you know the priority of your expenses, you're going to be able to throttle those things in a way where it doesn't impact the incoming of your business, in terms of your brand awareness, your advertising, your marketing, and things like that. So
I know you recommended a book, and I'm not going to recommend a book. What I'm actually going to recommend is actually the opposite of saving money. It's actually spending a little bit more money. And I'm going to say, if you're not somebody who naturally wants to know these numbers, who is going to get into that, and I'll be honest, I'm not one of them. Thank goodness for my wife and the business that we've built and how we've built it. But there's that part of it that's the number side of it, and really knowing what the expenses are. You need to have somebody in your world that at least is interested in doing that.
Hire a bookkeeper.
I was going to say, hire a bookkeeper, hire somebody that can break down these numbers for you so you know what you're looking at. It is going to be an expense to you. And I will say that not all financial planners are equal. There's a lot of ones out there that are worth their weight in gold, and there's some of them that will just kind of be a glorified bookkeeper and kind of show you what's happening in your money. Do some research, talk to some people. I have had different financial planners over the years, and I have never walked away saying that wasn't worth every single penny we're spending on them. I've gone into everyone going, how much is it? Like, wait, hold on a second. Why are we spending that much? But we could do this ourselves. And after we end up doing it, then we're like, oh, like that person's never leaving my world. They pay for themselves over and over and over again. The money we've cut from certain areas to where we put money in different areas, they're worth their weight in gold. And find a good financial planner. A little bit of money spent up front. It might seem like it's expensive, but do some research. Talk to your friends, talk to other colleagues, see who they're using, do some, interview some people. That's a great way to understand your business and what's working and what's not.
Yeah, if it helps you see the numbers, like this is also important. And why, we talked about ideas, we talked about how you list it out. Knowing your numbers, whether you're driven by money or not, is outrageously important. Like if you're running a business, you need to know the numbers. And that doesn't mean that you have to be the one doing the debits and credits on the spreadsheet. You can hire a professional, and it honestly, in the end of the day, if you have a good person in your corner, it saves you money. My CPA saves me money every single year, even though I write him a check to do that, right? He's saving me money, and it's saving me a lot of time too.
And just because you're driven by money doesn't mean you necessarily understand the numbers and you know all that.
That's true.
Like we know somebody, Erin, okay, just who we're talking about, got a big life she wants to grow. And at the same, she's got things she wants to do. And when you sit down and have her analyze her numbers, that ain't never going to happen. And it might, she might surprise us, but at the end of the day, and I think that's that's where, and she's smart. She brings people in to know her numbers.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say her last name, but you know who we're talking about, Erin.
She does have somebody managing the numbers, which that's great. And most of the people, I should say, a lot of the people that we coach who know that they're not the numbers people do have numbers people on their team, or they have a actual numbers professional, like a financial planner, a bookkeeper, or a accountant who's helping them understand that and make sure that stuff's all taken care of. So focus on the money.
I thought this was going to be a short episode, Matt.
Or have some focus on the money. I thought it was going to be a short episode too.
I was like, we'll hammer through this one fairly quickly. Give everybody just some nuggets to chew on here, and then no, not at all.
No. Well, whenever we talk about money, it does get bigger, and I like talking about money because it is the grease that makes everything cook in a great way. So let's have some focus on our numbers, guys. If you haven't done it yet for this year, analyzed your expenses and started thinking about how do you want to invest your money in your business in 24, sit down and do it. It's not going to take that long to actually do. If you have a bunch of things happening in different places, it might take a while for you to collate all of it. But once it's there on a sheet and you're looking at it, it's yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, and starting to make a plan of how that's going to work. And here's the cool thing. When you make a plan for your money, particularly when it comes to auto flow and all these things, then, come May, June, you're like, what should I do? It's like, you don't have to really think about it because you already invested in it. It's already going. It helps you take action, which is a lovely thing. So,
yep.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Garrett, for bringing up this topic, talking about money.
It was collaborative.
And thank you everybody for tuning in. If you have further questions and conversations around this, a great place for that to take place is in our Facebook community. So just go over to Facebook, search for the Ninja Selling Podcast, join it up. I'm sure there's a lot of people who have different thoughts around the topic of money and expenditures. So you can probably have some really interesting conversations there with folks.
Don't judge. Interesting conversations. Don't judge how people use their money.
Exactly. That's why I say interesting. So don't be the person like, oh, you shouldn't spend money on that or whatever it is. Just, be open and understanding. So, and if you want to learn more about ninja selling, of course, head over to ninjaselling.com. You can click on all the buttons at the top to find out about training, find out about coaching, where Garrett and I spend a lot of our time. Connect with one of our fabulous coaches if you want to dive into your business at this level and do some really detailed business planning, including maybe some numbers as well. You can always check us out there. But otherwise, guys, appreciate you tuning in as always, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
If you enjoyed today's episode and would like more, visit us at theninjasellingpodcast.com.
There you will also find links for more information about ninja selling and coaching. Have an incredible day.